All right, everybody, welcome to the True Crime News. And with no further delay, I'm going to start the first show because usually the episodes go to about 90 minutes. So I'll go with my first story. And the headline is New Orleans courtroom brawl erupts after man pleads guilty to killing his 3 children. I don't know if you've ever watched videos of people reacting in court to sentences and having to be restrained by the court officers and all that, but that's usually pretty entertaining. Here in Canada, cameras are not allowed in courtrooms, so we don't get to enjoy that kind of entertainment. But you have court TV, you have a whole channel devoted to trials, so you get to watch that. So, a fight broke out in a New Orleans courtroom Thursday after a man pleaded guilty to murdering his 3 children in an arson house fire last year. New Orleans news outlets report that Joseph Washington had pleaded guilty for first-degree murder when he was attacked by a woman related to the children. Other relatives joined in the attack before deputies restored order. One arrest was reported. Washington's plea came after prosecutors agreed not to seek the death penalty in the case, meaning Washington will spend the rest of his life in prison. Washington set fire to his ex-wife's house in October in what police chief Ann Kirkpatrick called a horrific act of domestic violence. Police said the fire killed a 3-year-old boy, a 5-year-old girl, and an 8-year-old boy. Police said the children's mother had called 911, saying the children's father planned to burn the house down. The mother was not at home at the time. Moments later, the fire was reported. Yeah, so it's a short and sweet. So it's like, yeah, he admitted to his guilt, but then that wasn't really enough. And that wasn't enough for everybody, so they had to attack him in court as well. Well, do you think you could, if someone murdered your children and you're in the courtroom looking at the guy, do you think you could restrain yourself? Do you think you could keep it together?
No.
I honestly I couldn't tell you. I mean, Michelle, like that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response.
Right.
Right? Like, I love that your immediate response was like, no, I couldn't control myself. No, fuck no. No. Right? You just go for it. Go for the jugular. But like, I don't know. Like, that would be my want response.
Yeah. No, it's
right.
there's a big difference between what we think we would do versus what we would actually do in the moment when we're presented with that stress.
Right.
I would like to think that I would just go off.
Yeah.
I don't think I would full on assault somebody, but I definitely wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut.
Oh, hell no. No.
But I mean, I've seen people break out in hysterics before, and it's one of those, like, unless you're in that specific mindset, it's hard to sit there and think, how could someone get like that? But, again, everyone processes stuff differently. And I mean, for me, because my daughter's going to be my only kid, just because of all the shit I went with, like, if I lost her,
Same.
That's it, and then it's just one of those, like, as a parent, like, it's just everything that comes along with motherhood, from the minute you get pregnant until, your child leaves the nest, essentially. It's all on you, and it's all your decision making and trying to do what's best for your kid. And
right.
If someone were to take that away from you, like,
and
I know truly, I wouldn't handle it well, but I don't know to what extent I would.
I'm not, I will never condone violence is like the answer, but goddamn if it is not understandable sometimes. And
right.
as a mother, like, and look, y'all, if it happened, if I ever do something like that, I will gladly do the time for
right.
what I've done.
Well, even during Larry Nassar's trial, I mean, that one guy like tried to attack him and took like 5 court officers to hold him down. He didn't kill his daughters, but he did molest them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but that's got to be challenging. You're 15 feet away from the person who did that to your children. Or even this other situation, you've probably seen this before. It wasn't in a courtroom, but this guy kidnapped and sexually abused this little boy, and the father knew when the guy was going to be brought to this airport, and he
Yeah.
was like wearing a disguise. But when they brought him by, he shot
blank.
him. Yeah, he hung out in like a payphone or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard to, you know, it would be hard
What-
as a parent not to do that. So
Do you remember what the sentencing was on that guy? Because I remember it like they went pretty light on the sentencing, and I think it's because anybody who's a parent can look at that and just go, "Look what you did to my kid." Like,
well, would it be right to like, sentence him to murder but suspend the sentence? I mean,
I think his sentencing. I'll look it up just to be sure, but like I'm pretty sure his sentencing was pretty light.
yeah.
Let's see.
Or
So you guys go ahead. I'm just gonna look it
or
up.
there was a guy, I think he might have been a Texan, but yeah, somebody abused his daughter. Maybe I don't know if his daughter was killed or what, but yeah, he killed the guy who did it, and he didn't get anything. Didn't get a punishment for it. So
I mean, Gary Plauche
I think that's the guy's name.
killed Jeffrey Doucette,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so let's see what he got. Yeah, he got a 7-year suspended sentence with 5 years probation and 300 hours of community service. No prison time.
Okay. Make sure he doesn't kill anyone else. That's
Sure,
fair,
sure. But I mean, you look at the circumstances of that kind of thing, and I mean, I fucking hate the term crime of passion when it's used for like lovers' quarrels and all this
Yeah.
shit. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you threw tantrums. That's what happened there. Okay, grow the fuck up. But in a case like that to me is like the definition of a crime of passion. That's your child that happened to. I can't. There is not a crime I understand more than that.
Yeah.
Truly. So, but yeah.
All right.
Jeffrey.
Go on. Finish what you were going to say, Ariel.
Oh no, I was gonna say, Jeffrey Doucette, rotten hell. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Michelle, go with your first story.
All right. So my first story is woman sentenced in death of 3-year-old boy found with baby wipes lodged in his throat.
No.
Apparently, yes. Yeah.
Yes, this is out of Bedford County, Pennsylvania. A Pennsylvania woman was sentenced between 40 and 80 years in prison on Monday after she pleaded guilty to the death of her boyfriend's 3-year-old son, who was found with baby wipes lodged in his throat. According to a news release from Pennsylvania Attorney General Michelle Henry's office, Chelsea Renee Cooley, 33, of Bedford County, was sentenced after pleading guilty to charges of third-degree murder in Bedford County Court. Cooley also pleaded guilty to felony strangulation and child endangerment, according to the local news sources. The child was found unresponsive at Cooley's residence on May 28th of 2022. The boy was discovered by police with the wipes blocking his breathing passage. The child was airlifted to a local children's hospital in Pittsburgh, where he died the next day. The Allegheny County medical examiner identified the boy as Travis Young, the local TV station reported. The death was ruled a homicide and was a result of manual strangulation and asphyxiation, according to the medical examiner's office. An investigation by Pennsylvania State Police revealed that Cooley was at home with the boy and other children at the time of the crime, according to the news release. The boy's father was working a 12-hour shift and stated that his son was healthy when he left for work. The Attorney General's office said that Cooley delayed calling 911 and hesitated in assisting the child while speaking to dispatchers. The facts of this case are horrific, Henry said in a statement. This defendant was responsible for caring for this child, and instead she did the unthinkable. She brutally murdered him, a defenseless and innocent 3-year-old child. The defendant's actions are devastating to the child's loved ones, but we hope that today's admission and sentence will offer a measure of justice.
40 to 80 years? Yeah, let's go on the high end of that. How about?
If she even makes it in prison.
That's disgusting. That's so disgusting. Oh, she didn't render aid.
A
Are you-
combination of manual strangulation and asphyxiation. So she probably started choking him out and realized that's not like the movies, and it takes several minutes to cause a
Right.
person to die by manual strangulation, so she decided to speed up the process.
Yeah.
That's so fucking gross.
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, it's called the Cinderella effect. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm.
So it's basically, well, it's an ancient instinct where we don't like the idea of raising another person's offspring. So back then, when we were still apes, cavemen, whatever, we'd run them off or we'd kill them. And
I feel
unfortunately,
like animals still do that in the wild to this day because it's all about preserving their bloodlines.
Right.
probably, yeah. Oh, for sure, especially in the primate world. But yeah, and then but unfortunately, it exists still in the human race, and then it results in a lot of abuse. In this case, murder. So yeah, so this woman, probably also being psychotic, I imagine, just didn't want to take care of another person's child, and I mean, it must be hard when a child is being difficult and it's not your own, but it doesn't justify this. But yeah, that was
Well,
from
and it makes you wonder what's going to be the aftermath for those other children who were in the home at the time of this going on.
yeah.
If they saw anything.
They say whether they witnessed this or
Mm-mm.
no.
No, it just stated that when she did call dispatch, she was not quick to do what they were saying to help him.
Yeah.
She caused it. Of course she wasn't. That's just, I mean, it's just,
Well,
that whole situation is disgusting.
it would have been obvious just reach in the kid's mouth and pull it out.
And that always
Right?
baffles me. Like when adults will commit crimes against children, like where they injure them or are in the process of killing them, and they still call 911. But then if you're trying to, prevent the finger being pointed at you, wouldn't you do exactly what they said?
Ma'am,
What's the point at that point of calling 911? If
ma'am, stop.
it just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't get it.
Okay, ma'am, stop strangling them.
Right.
Seriously. Yeah.
I have friends that
Pull your
work
hands
police
away.
dispatch, and like they're just like, the shit I have to talk about. Like I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. I mean, there's a case I'm starting a new podcast. I'm not going to do like a plug for it right now or anything, but it has to do with female offenders, and so we're going to be dealing with a lot of like neonaticide and things like that, because that is a much more common female crime. And it's like really astounding, like the things that people are willing to do to their children and the reasons behind it. It's really
I think generally female offenders get involved with crimes that pay, fraud, mostly that kind of thing. But yeah, I think they probably do end up being involved in a lot more crimes against children.
a lot more than we recognize as a culture. You know what I mean? Like for instance, feticide, like where people go in and they actually when they go in and actually like do fetal abductions, right? That is strictly a female crime. Like there's not a man on record who has ever performed that crime. Could it happen? Has it happened? Maybe. But I mean, all the numbers we have are like women do this. That's it. That's the only people who do this are women. That's one of the most horrific crimes I can imagine. Slicing open a pregnant woman and stealing her child.
There was a whole horror movie about it.
Yes. Yeah,
It's very traumatizing
horrible.
if you haven't seen it. Just saying.
I just
Ugh.
finished a book. I just finished a book about a woman who likes to eat dead babies.
Yeah, how'd that go for you, Morgan?
It was amazing that he couldn't top what had already happened, and that he did. He kept going with it.
It was
It's called,
fucking gross.
it's called Dead Inside. Yeah, I don't
It's
think
Great
they
name.
could make. I don't
Great
think
name.
they could make a
Just.
movie of it. I don't think they could. They couldn't
it's
get away
it's
with it.
Morgan smut. It's
Yeah.
right up his alley. It's disgusting. I got pissed. I still get mad talking about that book.
I'm getting into extreme horror, so I'm open to suggestions.
Okay.
That's not
okay.
extreme. That's just like campy. That was one of those books I found on TikTok where it was like, oh, these books are the worst of the worst. You got to read them, and that was in a list of them where it's like, and I read it, and I'm like, I felt way more comfortable because of all the stories Morgan does about necrophilia and that aspect than I did about the cannibalism of aborted babies.
Yeah,
And then later combining those two worlds into this extra disgusting. I was like, I need to put holy water in my eyes. Like, I don't like what I'm reading.
yeah. It's
I was like, how can this man? I feel bad if he watches like one of our viewers. I feel bad. He's sitting here like, what the fuck?
it's gonna be hard
But
if
I'm
you're
just like, can you imagine being that guy? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna type this in, and then it gets worse, and he's like, I'm gonna make so much money. Like, it's so, oh god, I can't.
Well, it's gonna be hard to strictly be a necrophiliac but not be a murderer. That's gotta be tough, you know.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's so tough. And I honestly, I feel like, and this is, okay, hot take, right? I don't think that Ed Gein necessarily would have killed people if he just had enough access to like freshly dead bodies.
Yeah, he should have become a mortician or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
It almost sounds like you're treating it like, safe houses for drug use.
Yeah.
A little. that sounds terrible. I'm not advocating grave robbing. I'm not advocating necrophilia. Like, I mean, I feel for you, truly. If you don't act on it, but you just want to fuck dead bodies, like,
Yeah.
I do feel for you. That's rough. It's
There's
rough.
well, speaking of grave robbing, there's this new drug epidemic in Africa, and if you think the fentanyl problem is bad, there's this drug somebody created out of human bones, and
Oh,
people are
fuck.
addicted to it, and they're digging up graves to get enough human bones to make this drug, and it's a deadly drug too. It's really bad for you. So that's a new thing. That's a new interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's just what we need. God damn it. I'm sorry.
Right,
Just.
Ariel, what's your first story?
Oh, okay. Well,
Your turn.
Here's a delightful one. One of the most bizarre murders. UF pre-med student stabs mother 70 times for annoying him.
No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is what happens when COVID hits.
Frost-proof, wait for it, Florida. New documents detail the brutal way a University of Florida pre-med student murdered his mother, a second-grade teacher, in Polk County over the weekend. Sheriff Grady Judy explained in a Monday press conference that the victim, Elvia Espinosa, 46, was excited to see her son Emmanuel Espinosa, 21, on Saturday before he stabbed her 70 times. Emmanuel Espinosa traveled from Gainesville to Frostproof to stay with his mother and visit family after she called asking to see him. According to court documents, he decided on the drive to kill his mother. He told detectives for years he planned to kill his mother because of, quote, the victim annoying him when he was younger. He said he loved her, but still decided to kill her. He arrived at the house, he put in earbuds and played the song No Church in the Wild by Jay-Z and our Lord and Savior Kanye West. The doorbell camera video shows him approaching his mother's front door with a pocket knife in his hand. His mother, while on the phone with her brother, opened the door and Emmanuel Espinosa repeatedly stabbed the victim in her stomach. She attempted to run, and he chased her down, continuing to stab her. He then cut open her shirt and continued to stab her until her hands stopped moving. He told detectives that as a pre-med student, he used his knowledge of the human body to stab her in specific places to ensure she would bleed out.
But he didn't bring a scalpel?
I mean,
Sorry.
the best laid plans, right? So, quote, I killed someone. I stabbed my mom, Emmanuel Espinosa told a 911 operator. We're going to render her aid, okay? Is she awake? The operator asked. No, she bled out, he replied. When sheriff's deputies arrived, Emmanuel Espinosa exited the front door covered in blood and surrendered. Inside, deputies found Elvia Espinosa dead. Judy, the sheriff, said the victim was a beloved second-grade teacher at Ben Hill Griffin Elementary School and described as the perfect mother to her 3 children. Quote, I want you to understand she was really the perfect mom. I want you to understand that she was very proud of his accomplishments in going to the University of Florida, graduating #1 in his high school class. Emmanuel Espinosa was the 2020 Frost-Proof High School valedictorian with a 4.5 GPA. He was described as being a genius, according to the sheriff. Judy says he had no history of mental health challenges nor drug or alcohol abuse. He had no previous Baker Act or arrest history. He's charged with first-degree premeditated murder and tampering with evidence.
Well, you know, when I was growing up, I got the impression through movies and TV that you just needed to stab somebody once and you could kill them. But that appears to be scientifically incorrect.
Right.
You could survive a single stab wound. I mean,
well, and stabbing someone in the stomach is a slow, painful way to go, and it's not even a surefire way that it's going to kill them.
Right.
So it's kind of odd that he's like, well, I know the human body, but yet still chose to make her. I mean, unless he wanted her to suffer.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking because he picked spots to make sure she'd bleed out, but like you said, they're not quick.
Yeah.
No, like he took the Manson approach, just like, I'll stab her enough times that eventually, I'll hit an artery or she'll just bleed out.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe she pressured him? That yes, he was a genius, but I mean, having a 4.5 GPA is not easy, even in like high school.
Not that I would. No.
Even if you're inclined, there's a lot of pressure, whether from other people or put on by yourself. Like it's a lot of work and a lot of pressure. Like how do you step down from that at all? After you've been #1, how do you
and how can you truly do what you want if you've been forced down this route? And then suddenly that's not what you want to do anymore, you know.
Sure.
The flack that you would get for deciding to change routes like that.
Well, and it's such an odd, like the word choice, I guess, is really odd. Annoyed me. Like what does that look like? You know, I want details. I want to know what annoyed me looks like.
Exactly. Like, what does annoyed do to you to cause you to want to stab someone? Because I'm annoyed on a daily basis, and you don't see me shanking everybody who ticks me off.
Right. And see, here's the thing that I'm wondering about, too. Because of the phrasing, because of the fact he never had any criminal history, because of the fact he was exceptionally bright as this 21-year-old kid, my question, I was not diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum until last year. Yeah. I'm 39, right? Is it possible that there are things that were triggers to him? Could he potentially be on the spectrum?
It could be an underlying diagnosis of some sort, whether it's autism or otherwise. Right. And also, too, you know, depending on his family's background and their culture, they may not believe in, you know,
treating
the mental health aspect and advocating and seeking therapy and medication if there was a diagnosis.
Entirely possible, you know. I mean, and again, like the autism thing occurred to me just because I know, I mean, like when I grew up, I felt like I knew a couple people who are autistic, and they're mostly in my family because it runs in my family. So big shocker, I'm on the spectrum too, whatever. But like, people can function with not just autism, but like you said, any number of other mental illnesses, highly function and still be troubled and not realize they have something that's of concerning nature.
It's the compartmentalization and the masking, and then eventually, it's gonna break. It's gonna, so.
What do you have? You have Asperger's?
I mean, they don't, like, when I was diagnosed formally, they didn't use that term anymore, but yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah.
I would never, well, yeah, I don't know. I would never have thought that, but
it's interesting. Like, it doesn't, people were like, you're so brave to come out and say that. I'm like, fucking why? Like, I'm not any different than I was before I got the diagnosis. It just put some things in context for me. Like, different things.
You're like, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, that tracks. That makes total sense. Yeah, there's a reason that I do. Okay, sensory things for me. Even the fact that I'm like, I love people, but I'm super introverted, and there are certain things that it's not just like, well, I need my time to recharge. Like, I get to a point where I'm like, no, I like really can't anymore. Like, I can't, to the point, like, I had a stroke last month. Like, I mean, like, the stress level is real, like, when I'm dealing with certain types of stressors. So, yeah, a lot of things make sense now that didn't in the past. But again, it essentially doesn't change who I am. It's just like, yeah, okay. So there are more of us on the spectrum than anybody
You're understanding yourself better. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
True crime's a real preoccupation for you, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, it isn't for me, but it is for you. That's an Asperger's thing to, like, really always be focused on something. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. It was funny because my mother said the exact same thing, Morgan. She was like, oh, this is interesting. And I was like, I don't fixate on things. And she goes, true crime? And I just went, okay, aside from that, though, there's not like a whole lot.
You're like, busted.
Highly intelligent people tend to have an obsessive temperament and be fixated on one or two things like that. So,
well, and I also have the added bonus of having been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. So, like,
you're the double whammy, the 1-2 punch.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
But that makes you so effective at what you do with all your research and stuff.
Well, there is a reason. There is a reason that I'm really fucking meticulous. That is for sure.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I can't help it.
All right. So my next story, the headline is, New York police find meat cleavers in bloody home after group ambushes a couple and scatters remains, says an indictment. Murder charges filed in Long Island body parts case after suspects initially released on no bail. So 2 men and 2 women in a suburb east of New York City have been indicted in connection with the ambush murder of a Yonkers couple who they allegedly chopped up before scattering the remains across 2 parks in a wooded area where a child stumbled upon a severed arm.
Oh, God.
The 4 suspects, Jeffrey Mackey, 36, Alexis Neves, 33, Stephen Brown, 44, and Amanda Wallace, 40, stand accused of luring Malcolm Brown, 53, and Donna Connelly, 59, to a house in Amityville, the new Amityville horror, and stabbing them to death inside on February 27th. Mackey and Neves are also charged with murder. The 4 allegedly cut the victims to pieces in a bathroom and tossed their remains at Southard's Pond Park, Bethpage State Park, and a stretch of woods in West Babylon. So investigators searching the home found blood throughout the residence, 2 meat cleavers, and other large knives, prosecutors said. The victims' family members told reporters outside the Suffolk County Courthouse in March that the 2 Browns were cousins. The prosecutors alleged defendant Brown and his friends plotted to kill the couple anyway. A child soon uncovered a severed arm in a park on her way home from school, and police recovered other pieces of the victims in other places. So she's on her way home. La 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 la. Oh, is that her arm? Is that a real arm? The 4 Long Island body part suspects were arrested on March 4th and released without having to post bail on lesser charges under New York law, prompting outrage. Under New York's bail reform laws passed in 2019, charges of merely chopping up and disposing of dead bodies aren't eligible for bail, according to Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney, who skewered the state's bail reform laws and demanded they be changed. I would like to thank the hard-working men and women of the Suffolk County Police Department and my prosecutors for their tireless work in bringing this investigation to the point where we are able to charge the responsible individuals with murder and seek bail, he said Monday, after the indictments on more serious charges were unsealed. Those in law enforcement must do their jobs without fear or favor. Ethically, charges can and should only be brought when the facts and evidence are clear. I thank the team for ignoring the distractions and doing just that. After their arraignments on the new indictment Monday, a judge ordered Mackey held without bail. The judge set bail for Neves at $1 million cash or $10 million bond. Those two each face murder charges and are due back in court on June 3rd. Days after the initial arrests, police took Wallace into custody again for allegedly stealing makeup from a CVS store, and a judge was able to set bail. She and Brown, who had not yet been booked into the county jail, were due back in court Tuesday. Other charges against the group include conspiracy, evidence tampering, and concealment of a corpse. The house where the suspects were staying is just 4 minutes from the infamous Amityville Horror House, where Ronald DeFeo Jr. slaughtered his own family inside their waterfront colonial home in 1974. So, see, I always thought that place was just infamous for being allegedly haunted, which it turned out it wasn't. So there actually was a murder there.
Yeah. No, that part was real. But the haunting that allegedly happened afterwards was.
Oh.
It's because the Warrens got involved.
Oh,
You know,
God.
Ed and Lorraine Warren, and you
Right.
know.
Oh man,
just
and I read the book about the haunting, and I thought it was real, and I was so disappointed when I found out it wasn't. All this stuff like flushing the toilet and it comes up black, and there's like a huge pig playing with their daughter, and
Right.
it all turned out to be bullshit. Man, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
a ghost
I mean-
story.
That's
Yeah.
just Ed and Lorraine.
That leads me to my next story, which is
Ooh.
not a ghost story. This one actually, this is some Kill Bill shit right here. Okay. Man learns fate after stabbing and burying his wife alive, leading to her miraculous escape. So, a Washington State man who buried his estranged wife alive before she miraculously escaped will spend more than 13 years in prison for the 2022 crime, a judge has ruled. Chae Kyung-an, 54, was sentenced on Monday to 165 months in prison and 3 years of community custody, Thurston County, Washington authorities told Fox 13 Seattle. The sentencing comes a month after he pleaded guilty to second-degree attempted murder. King 5 and the Olympian both reported. In October of 2022, an estranged wife was reportedly brutally beaten, stabbed, and bound her with duct tape before On buried her alive in a wooded area. The Olympian reported this, citing unspecific court documents, by the way. At one point during the attack, she called 911 through her Apple Watch. After he buried her, the woman was stuck in the makeshift grave for 12 hours, she said in a statement in the court on Monday. After she was able to get out of her bindings, she ran through the woods to a home in Olympia a little after midnight and began pounding on the door asking for help. Lacey police stated at the time. She told residents that On had attempted to kill her after abducting her from her home and taking her into the woods, per authorities. On Monday, at his sentencing hearing, the woman recounted more details of the harrowing incident. At the time of the attack, she pleaded with On to let her go and to think of their children, which he reportedly ignored, she said in her statement, according to King 5. I don't need anything. Today I'm going to kill, she stated, On told her. On initially charged with attempted murder, domestic violence, kidnapping, assault, and felony harassment, per the Olympian and as well as Fox 13 Seattle. In a statement during his plea agreement, On said on October 16th of 2022, he quote unquote took a substantial step to intentionally harm his wife, and after kidnapping her and taking her into the woods, he placed her bound in a hole and covered her with branches, the Olympian reported. During Monday's hearing, On said he regrets the attack. I wish I could go back and never enter that house that day and just walked away, On said, according to King 5. The victim says her life has been forever altered as a result of the attack. After that day, I and my children's lives were crushed, she said in her statement. I have to live my life with emotional trauma and health issues for the rest of my life.
Yeah, he should have just buried her in dirt, not just a bunch of branches.
Well, if he thought she was already dead, he was being lazy and didn't want to go through all the effort to, fully cover it up.
Sure, yeah.
And he was just going to let nature take care of it, because October in Washington, I'm not completely sure what their climate's like during the winter, Who knows what animals out there could have easily, cleaned her up.
Right, for sure.
See, when it comes to killing, you got to be like the guy in The Godfather who kicked Sonny's head like after they shot him to make sure the person's dead. You got to do that one last gesture,
Oh, it's like double tapping zombies.
Yeah, who could not react to getting kicked in the head, right? So you got to go to your way to make sure that they're tapped out, that they're out.
Well, if Morgan's ever convicted of a crime, we know what he did. We know how he double checked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bro. You're toast. That happens. So,
Well, I used to think maybe
we're on the case.
I used to
keep being a good dude. Keep being a good dude.
Well, I used to think maybe the scene in Kill Bill 2 was bullshit where she managed to get out of the grave. But I guess now
it can be done, but it's a very meticulous process.
Yeah.
And depending on how well you can prevent yourself from panicking is going to make all the difference between life and death.
And also, it's depending on the weather at the time, if it rains or if it's like really cold, you better work on it immediately, because the soil's going to get real hard and thick and packy, and you don't want to have to punch through that. So
right.
Or kick,
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So what's your next story, Ariel?
Oh, fun times. Okay, so next we have additional charges filed against man in killing of Uber driver he mistakenly believed was a scammer. So an 81-year-old Ohio man.
Mm-hmm. Damn it. Where?
Actually, I'm sure it'll say it's Clark County. So he pleaded not guilty to multiple counts of murder and other charges Wednesday related to the shooting death of an Uber driver he mistakenly believed was working with a scammer attempting to extort him, according to the Clark County prosecutor. William Brock was previously arraigned on a murder charge for purposely causing Lolitha Hall's death. On Monday, a grand jury indicted him on that charge, as well as 2 new counts of felony murder, according to court records. The 2 felony murder counts accuse Brock of causing Hall's death as a result of committing or trying to commit another underlying felony, felonious assault and kidnapping, respectively. In addition to the 3 murder counts, he was also charged with kidnapping her and felonious assault. In all, he faces 5 charges. CNN has reached out to Brock's defense attorney, Paul Kavanaugh, for comment. Brock's $200,000 bond continued from the one set previously in court for the original murder charge on April 10th, Clark County prosecutor Daniel P. Driscoll said. Brock shot Hall several times outside his South Charleston home on March 25th, according to a criminal complaint. Hall was taken to a hospital where she died. Brock told police that prior to the shooting, he had received threatening phone calls from a male caller who attempted to extort money from him, claiming one of Brock's relatives was being held in jail, and then threatened him and his family. When 61-year-old Hall arrived in her Uber at Brock's residence, he shot her multiple times, the release states. Brock was arrested and charged as police saw no active threat presented by Hall during the encounter, the Clark County Sheriff's Office said. Police released dash cam video obtained from Hall's vehicle of Brock confronting her outside his home. CNN has reached out to Hall's family for comment. According to the prosecutor, the judge will set Brock's next court date in the coming weeks. The Clark County Sheriff's Office previously said the original scam remains under investigation. On Wednesday, Driscoll declined to comment, saying publicizing the direction of investigation may jeopardize its outcome. So basically, Hall had received a request on Uber to pick up a package at Driscoll or from Brock's residence, and she was not familiar with the circumstances surrounding the request. Showed up. The dash cam video from her car shows her getting out of the car to speak with Brock, and she basically, she was doing her job. She was just doing her job. Truly, there was nothing on the dash cam footage that showed anything other than her just being like, okay, and what do you need? Whatever. Yeah, and he shot her. So, it's interesting.
And yet, for a while there, I noticed people were kind of talking about Uber drivers being creepy or seeming to have dodgy backgrounds, but here we are with the murder of the driver.
Yeah, but I mean, I think about that too in what was it, Marjorie something Deal, I think was her name, the one who did the bank heist with the guy with the bomb around his neck.
Yes.
He's a pizza delivery guy.
Mm-hmm.
They can be people who are delivery people. They can be victimized very easily.
Oh yeah, taxi drivers are big targets for robbery.
Oh yeah. I mean, wasn't I can't remember his name. I'm terrible. I'm throwing out all kinds of just one name things. But Paul something, the son of Sam, shot him. The taxi driver, the one guy that was just by himself.
Oh yeah, David Berkowitz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he shot a taxi driver. His name was Paul something, but it was the one person that he shot. It was just by himself.
Oh yeah. Dude. Well, back then there were no debit terminals, so they were just carrying cash. And taxi drivers make decent money, actually.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
A lot of them have gotten robbed, at gunpoint too. Yeah.
I don't doubt it. I mean, taxi drivers are moving convenience stores.
Yeah.
Basically.
Think about cost too. So yeah.
Oof. Yeah, I would not want to do that job. I make a point of being very, very kind to people who work in jobs like that. Because, I mean, look, God forbid the Uber driver is creepy, right? Yeah. Be nice. Hopefully you, whatever. But in general, that's a hard job. That's not an easy job. Be kind to people in service industries, y'all. For real. It's not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah, and I don't mean to turn this into a gender debate or anything, but I once worked for a taxi company, and in a fleet of 15,000 drivers, there were 4 female drivers, and I think it probably has a lot to do with the danger of being robbed and everything.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. I mean, how many cases do we cover that have to do with women who are working, like I said, in convenience stores? Because taxis are mobile convenience stores. They're easy targets. It's hard. It's hard, I mean, we think about, for instance, prostitution, right? Sex work, like that makes you an easy target because you're getting into random people's vehicles, like people
and
you don't know. But think about the interactions that you have as a taxi driver, like
you have
male,
to
female,
get
doesn't
someone
matter.
and you have to get someone into a private space in order to kill them, so you won't get caught. And
Right.
prostitutes do it all the time. So, which is why
Right.
it should be legalized, so that they could have something like, a bordello where they're working and, they're registered there. And so
Yes.
some creep comes in, they know who they are, and they
We
can
need
take
to know
their
their names. We need to know the names of the jobs. We need to know the names of the people who are doing the sex work because we can't keep up with them otherwise. And frankly, if we want to keep levels of disease and pregnancy and all of those things
Yep.
down, they need
And
to have access to medical health, like medical care. Like it seems like a no-brainer to me. It's going to happen regardless of whether it's legal or not. So can we please protect the public?
Mm-hmm.
and with the
Both
economy,
people who are sex workers and people who access sex workers, like,
with the economy being as it is, shouldn't we allow women to work as sex workers and not get in trouble for it?
Well,
So
and
much
part of
work.
it too is state by state,
Sure.
legalization. Because I mean, there's ranches and stuff in Vegas,
Oh
Right.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
but as far
Right.
as the rest of the country, I mean, you've got pockets of hyper conservatism.
Well, I mean, but America, I mean, you know this, Michelle. We're behind the curve. Like, we like to think we're like the most amazing progressive country in the world, and there are wonderful things about America. I'm not shitting on my country, but like, in this particular regard, I
We
think the three
fucking
of us are on
suck.
the same page. Like,
Yeah.
Well, we don't
sex
have
work
red
is
light
work,
districts, yes.
and it's legitimate work. Like, a man can use his body for construction, for instance. Fucking fantastic. That's
Well-
great. It's hard fucking work. Guess what? So is sex work. And men do it too. Like, why is this such a people like sex? Oh my god, why can you not exchange money for it?
You can strip
Like, I don't
legally,
get it.
You can
I
strip
don't get
legally.
it.
You can do like
Mhm.
OnlyFans legally. There's so many other,
Yes.
things related to sex that you can do
You
legally.
you won't get arrested for being a porn actor. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what is
Yeah, and when they're shooting the movie, the girl is getting paid to have sex.
Yes.
A guy, so it's kind of prostitution, right?
Thank you. Yes. It's not the man paying the woman. Okay, so she's being paid indirectly. What kind of fucked up morals are those? Like, I don't get it. I really truly, like, we could get on a soapbox. I won't. I'm just
That's a good segue.
Yeah.
That's a good segue because
Yay!
we're just talking about something you don't get. Well, I'll give you something else you won't understand. And
Let's go.
I wanted to save this. This is the best for last. I'm telling you. All right. So here's the headline first. A Mississippi teenager accused of having sex with a, drumroll, German Shepherd has been pictured with the dogs days before her arrest. Denise Fraser,
Oh!
19, was snapped with the dog after crashing her car in Merrick, Mississippi last Sunday, days before she was arrested over a clip of the alleged bestiality. Cops have also since revealed that the alleged dog sex clip was shot outside a Baptist church in Fraser's hometown. That can't be coincidental. I think that was probably meant to arouse or outrage. The investigation. The investigation has revealed further disturbing details about Fraser's dalliances with dogs, which she initially claimed she was forced to do, but police say there is no evidence that that was being the case. A total of 3 dogs were seen on the bestiality clip, but it's unclear if Fraser is accused of abusing the others. One of the videos appeared to have been filmed in the parking lot of Freedom Baptist Church, Merrick Sergeant J.D. Carter said. Screenshots of iCloud shared shots from the videos showed these being filmed from February 23rd through 28th. Carter's investigation led him to suspect that Fraser was doing this willfully with 3 separate dogs. All 3 dogs are currently being treated at a local animal hospital. According to WDAM, a concerned resident flagged the video in February to local authorities, and she was eventually arrested on aggravated cruelty charges. In my 17 years in law enforcement, this is one of the most disturbing cases that I've ever investigated, said Sergeant J.D. Carter of the Jones County Sheriff's Department. JCSD is in possession of several videos that are so graphic that we are not at liberty to release them or even discuss the particular content, he added. The investigation into this case is far from over. Frazier did admit that it was her engaging in sexual intercourse with an animal on the video. It has been claimed, although DailyMail.com has yet to verify this admission. Carter says that Frazier's alibi was that she was forced into committing the heinous acts, but says there's no evidence of that, though they are investigating. She allegedly told police she was, quote, threatened to do it, and also that people pay her for the videos, according to the Laurel Leader call. We've never dealt with this particular type of case before, Carter said. There are really no true words to describe it other than disgusting. So right now we're still in that initial phase, right past the first part of it, but we're still going to look into it to see if there's more. He says there may be more videos filmed in other counties. They have alerted nearby sheriff's departments. The dogs were seized from the residence she was arrested at and taken to a local animal hospital. One of the dogs is a German Shepherd that Frazier referred to as a, quote, service dog. Yeah, it gives new meaning to service dog, right?
Ugh.
Frazier has been booked into the Jones County Adult Detention Facility on charges of animal cruelty and unnatural intercourse. She made her first appearance in court Thursday and had her bond set at $25,000. The woman has also been ordered by a judge to stay away from animals until after her trial. While animal cruelty in Mississippi is penalized with up to 6 months in prison and a fine, unnatural intercourse could see Frazier jailed for up to 10 years.
So, okay, first knee-jerk reaction, email. I was like, what? Like, okay, which means, right, I'm so sorry. She was being penetrated by the animals?
Well, that's what I'm questioning, because unfortunately when I was in high school and we had access to the computers, I happened to look over one day and someone had pulled up human and dog porn.
Oh man.
With a German Shepherd and an adult woman.
What is it about German Shepherds?
It actually,
I don't know if it's because the size of the dog.
But I mean, David Parker Ray, right? Like the toy box killer. He also used German Shepherds.
But they also said in the article that the dogs are being treated. So did she penetrate them? Did she give them chlamydia? Like, what the fuck? Like.
Yeah, no, that's where my mind went, because I was like, okay, so female dog could have been penetrating her, but why are they being treated?
It could have gone both ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible she was using something, or she had an STI of some kind, or several.
Well, there are
I don't know, like.
There are female perverts, there are female.
Absolutely.
There. I read this book called My Secret Garden. If you haven't heard of it, what this woman did was she put ads in newspapers. This was like in the 70s, and asked women to mail in their sexual fantasies through letters. And most of them, I guess, are pretty standard stuff, but there was like 3 or 4 fantasies about having sex with dogs. And so that minority exists. And also one night on Facebook, I had a bestiality video appear on my feed. Have you ever had porn appear on your Facebook feed before?
It's appeared in the Human Monsters page.
It has? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've reported it.
Well,
when we took a break from like doing true crime news and stuff like that for a while, I happened to go back into it, and then it's like porn, 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 porn. And I kept reporting it. I don't know where the fuck it came from or who put it on there, but it was like that, dirty teenager getting railed by some dude, like just gross shit it was horrible. I was like, what the fuck?
They probably do it with bots. They probably use
Probably.
Yeah, they have to. There has to be some algorithm that picks up on like the explicit types of content
knows
that
Morgan
we cover.
likes the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Well, like I
it's just automatically like, hey, check this out.
I had a nightmare scenario at one point in time with ads on Malice. When I like first started, I didn't think about it, right? And so it was like, yeah, sure, auto ads, whatever. Like they do the pre-rolls or the mid-rolls or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll just throw in some mid-rolls, whatever. They were doing shit for like Adam and Eve. And I was like,
oh yeah,
the midst of me talking about like brutal rape murder, you're going to talk about like getting it on with your no, like, I don't know. So something about the algorithm, again, I don't know, but that's fucked up. Like I've never seen it like on my personal feed or on the Malice feed, thank God. But like, God, I did have Wish sending like targeted ads for a while for like bondage gear.
On the other hand, I mean, it could. Well, I don't know. I don't think this company's advertising now, but they were called Sherry's Berries. Just this company.
I remember that.
So it could be like a true crime podcast. He shoved his knife up her buttocks. Sherry's Berries. They ordered chocolate covered strawberries.
Something extra sweet for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So yeah, it could be something.
No puking.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good.
We broke her.
Yeah. So I mean, either way, a lot of the ads just don't really fit in. But
Yeah.
You gotta pay the
For a
bills.
while. I'll be honest, I did for a little while, and this is just like a very brief aside. Once I like fixed the ads, I noticed a lot of ads from Home Depot.
Yeah, really. Well, they sell tools. A lot of the tools are sharp, dangerous.
Things you can
tools,
kill with.
Barrels, tarps, like
all the Dexter shit. Love it. Beautiful.
Because at first I was like, why is home improvement on my podcast? And then I was like,
make your own body.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
One day I was walking through a hardware store and I'm walking past like the sharp tool section. I'm thinking this is like a serial killer's department store. This is like, you could go browsing. Oh, that could do a lot of damage.
Absolutely. Yes.
The saws, the chainsaws, the screwdrivers, all kinds of stuff there. That
one-stop shop, baby.
Sulfuric acid. Yeah. They must go there browsing through stuff, just.
They have to.
Yeah.
Which I will say is a smarter way than Googling.
Yeah, that's true. Because
just visit the
how
store.
How to kill and dismember, like.
Right. Which acid is best for dissolving flesh?
Yeah.
What is lye?
Yeah, web searches are now a crucial part of evidence that police will go into devices and find out what you've been Googling recently. Right. A couple of cases that I've covered, they did that. They, how do you get rid of a body permanently? That sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh God, I have Google searches. I swear people must look at. I'm sorry, there's an echo.
I don't hear it.
Okay, so it must just be on my end. That's fine, I'll ignore it. So there must be like some barrier, like when people are looking for threats, like active threats, and being like, okay, so we have either a potential serial killer or a true crime podcaster. So let's look at the rest of their information.
I'm sure they must look that up, yeah.
I have searches for ambient temperature for melting fingerprints.
Yeah.
She's on a no-fly list.
I must be. I'm sure
I am. But going back to bestiality, I remember one night somebody kept posting this video. And it was a bestiality video of a girl getting fucked by a dog, and She looked like she was enjoying it, but maybe she was a human trafficking victim. So who
Oh,
knows?
bless her. Yeah.
But
Who knows?
it kept coming up repeatedly. That's why I think maybe a bot was involved, like hacking
Mhm.
with bots where they just send
Mhm.
porn in, and so
Yeah.
it's sometimes they manage to infiltrate, a mainstream website like Facebook.
Right.
But yeah, these people certainly have found their home on the internet. But as far as treating the dog, I mean, unless it was like sodomized or something, I don't know
Mhm.
how else do you treat the dog? Do you get one of those animal psychologists? Does that even work? That stuff? I mean,
I truly, I have no idea about that. I have no fucking clue. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I don't know. And good for them if it does work. But like, to me, Michelle mentioned like diseases. Like that never even occurred to me. But that could be like there are things, there are diseases we share with animals.
yeah,
Like
it's true. Yeah,
an animal could get gonorrhea. I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that
I
specifically,
don't
but
want to
like
Google that and have
something.
that come up in the,
have that brain.
already bad enough we Google the things we Google. Now we got, do dogs get herpes?
Oh God.
Well, there's that
Have a
there's
vet
that
come on
urban
the
legend.
show and help us out.
There's that
That's
urban legend that
brilliant.
AIDS came from the green monkeys, and somebody ate them,
Right.
but that probably never happened. So
It's an. I mean, who knows? There's so much urban legend, but it's hard to know. It's hard to know because truth can be stranger than fiction.
Well,
You know
and
what I mean?
yeah,
So some of the
exactly.
things
Like,
that are
there's
like,
some medical anomalies that people are like, wait, what? That's fucking real? And like the whole concept of kuru, eating people's brains who have, yeah, like, eh.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much that's stranger than fiction. So it's so hard today, especially when we have knowledge at our fingertips, right? Like to get on and just be like, how do you sift through? Like, what's the sieve? What do we,
The fact
what?
versus fiction. Yeah.
It's hard to know. It's truly hard to know. And I mean, so would I be stunned if there was, basis in reality in some of this? No, not really. But can I say it is? No, not really. Like
Yeah.
I just
uh,
don't know.
I've heard of so much fucked up shit through this podcast that nothing. I wouldn't be surprised by anything really. Shocked maybe from time to time, but it seems like there's nothing too weird or too fucked up that it couldn't happen. That's what I've come to realize.
Morgan, I will tell you, when I first heard of human monsters, it was from other podcasters, and this is a good thing. They were like, if you want like the best researched shit, like the deep dive, the nitty gritty, everything, you will get it on human monsters. That is the thing. And there were podcasters who were like, there were episodes I just had to turn off. Like I couldn't fucking deal with it. And I was like, sounds like my kind of shit. Let's do this, And to this day, I'm proud to say I've never had to turn off an episode. But you are absolutely fucking right. You deal with some really fucked up shit on your show. Like there's some stuff that I'm like,
And there are
Yeah.
people. Who've said they've had to listen in stages to an episode, like they would
I get
20
it.
minutes here, 20 minutes there, or something like that. Because
I get it. I'm maybe a little masochistic. I don't know. I just go full throttle. I'm like, all day, baby. Let's do this. Humo, like noon to night.
I think it's the
She's
child
a
abuse
humo
episodes that
soldier, Morgan, is what
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bruh.
be
Yeah,
like
bruh.
go through. It's
For sure. For sure.
it's those child abuse episodes that I think they're probably talking about. The ones.
Oof, yeah, those are rough.
Those are always hard. The toolbox
Those are rough.
murders and just reading the transcript of the audio.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad.
That one,
It's
I
so
remember
bad.
I was driving for work and I'm like, I did not want to be by myself. I was like,
What is Lawrence Bittaker? Lawrence Bittaker, right? One of the toolbox killers.
Or
Right?
I think Whitaker is it?
I think it's Bittaker.
So
I
long
think it's
ago,
Bittaker. So I'm friends with the quote the Siren of San Quentin, like that's what she's known as. She has a show on Oxygen now about the toolbox killers because she sat down with Bittaker and he told her about the crimes, things that he never told the police and stuff. She's a fascinating person. I should put you guys in touch. Like, she's really fucking interesting. Like, there are murders that he alluded to her that were never connected to him and to, what was his fucking dumbass friend's name?
Yeah, it was a long time
Lawrence,
ago, yeah.
Lawrence Bittaker and I can't remember his name. I'm all about the one names tonight. Sorry, guys.
It was Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Lewis Norris.
Roy Norris, yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So Norris was dead when Laura actually sat down with Bittaker, but yeah, like he alluded to murders, including some that occurred at the Cecil Hotel.
Oh,
so, yeah. So there maybe it's still unfolding, like, as we speak. So it's a really, really fascinating case. Like, but yeah, she has a show now on Oxygen. So, like, that's about toolbox killers. So, worth checking out.
Yeah, my memory's better for pop culture than it is for true crime. Like, Michelle refers to herself as a pop culture dumpster fire on Instagram, and I'm kind of like one of those too.
Yeah.
But
you're just human remains, like dumpster fire.
Amazing.
All right, so yeah, Michelle, was that just you or?
Yep.
Okay.
Story 3. Suspected serial killer kept bones of 6 women in his room, prosecutor says. A man is being investigated as a suspected serial killer after bones, blood, a saw, cell phones, and the ID cards of missing women were found in rooms he previously rented, prosecutors claim. On April 19th, Mexico City police said that the suspect, who has only been identified as Miguel, was being held over for trial on charges of murder and attempted murder of 2 women, ABC News, The Washington Post, and NBC5 Dallas-Fort Worth all report. Per ABC News, head prosecutor Ulysses Lara claimed that the remains of 6 women were found in the murder suspect's rented room. Other biological material was also found in the rooms, according to the outlet. Per NBC5 Dallas-Fort Worth, local media reported that the remains that were found were skulls. The suspect was caught when he allegedly broke into a neighbor's apartment on April 16th and sexually abused and strangled her 17-year-old daughter, according to the Washington Post. The outlet reported that the teenager's mother returned to the apartment and saw him leaving, at which point he allegedly slashed her in the neck and fled, according to the authorities. The mother survived, but the daughter did not. The charges the suspect is facing are both related to the most recent victims. Lara alleged the evidence found in an apartment that was searched following the incident clearly indicates we are looking at a possible serial killer of women. Notebooks were also found that may well be narrations of the acts that Miguel carried out against his victims, Lara claimed, per Washington Post. The prosecutor added that the 5 of the IDs that were found belonged to women who have been located alive, but they didn't specify how many belong to women who are still missing or dead, according to the ABC News.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he should have, he should have just went and bought real human bones through, in a legitimate way, which you can. You can go out and you can buy real human bones. You can buy real skulls. They're expensive, admittedly. I think they're like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
They're not expensive on Wish.com.
Or Temu.
Oh, you're Oh, did you say Temu? Temu's got bones too.
Real human teeth. They've got them. Like,
eBay must have some bones too,
eBay, I remember in high school, they were trying to sell like prosthetic legs on eBay, and I wanted one so bad.
Yeah.
Michelle!
Just to say I had it.
Okay.
I obviously didn't get it. Otherwise, it'd be hanging up behind me. Some
Well,
people have
fucking,
horseshoes over their doorways. I would
you
have had
fucking
someone
weirdo.
from the 1800s.
I'm
You're a
about to
fucking
get one of those.
weirdo. You're adorable.
Well, I'm about to have one of those.
So worth the haunting.
I would like.
My one-legged ghost just hobbling through the house.
I'd like to get one of those glass eyes. That's got to be interesting.
Oh God! What is technology everywhere?
Not to wear one.
It's just on your like fucking nightstand and just turns every so often.
Oh, did you know that an eyeball has the consistency of like a hard-boiled egg? That's what it's like to hold one.
Yeah, because I've seen
Oh,
so
that's
many.
great.
I've seen too many movies where they squish the eyes, and I don't like it. It's gross.
Oh yeah. I read this one account about prison
Yeah.
violence, and this guy said if somebody like really wants to fuck you up, they'll like grab your head and like push their thumbs in your eye sockets until they burst the eyeballs.
Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
No,
Look,
they do
I'm
that.
not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I was told that straight up by like my grandfather, who was in MP, who
Gouge
was
the
in,
eyes, like.
he was at Normandy. He
Oh, God.
legit was like at Normandy, and then he was an MP, and he was just like stationed in Paris of all places, right during World War II. But he was like, yeah, we were trained. Like if somebody's coming at you, you go eyes first. So like that, just straight fucking into the eyes.
Well,
like
if you think about it, you don't have to kill them. You've blinded them. They're not a threat anymore.
That's why you think about like ants, right? Morgan, I'm so sorry. You were so sweet. You just let us like talk all over you.
We derail so easily.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Well, that is pretty sweet revenge, but I think maybe I would just kill like one eyeball.
Yeah, I just think about
Morgan's like, I want you to look me in the good eyes. I finish you off.
And they have to wear the glass eyeball in the other eye socket, you know. And Sam Davis Jr. had a glass eyeball.
But think about like army ants, right? Like when they attack their victims, they go up the body. They don't bite from the start. They go up and they go into the eyes. That's what they do. Like they disable their prey.
It's brilliant.
By taking away their eyesight.
Fucking
like it
Kill
is brilliant.
Like Kill Bill took out her other eye.
Yeah. It is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like
a very Kill Bill heavy episode. Being very live, eye gouging.
Truly. But somehow we didn't end up with autoerotic asphyxiation.
We did have strangulation.
Okay. All right. Let's bring it full circle.
Not the fun kind.
No.
Yeah, autoerotic asphyxiation is not recommended after the age of 45 because at that point masturbation takes a lot longer. I'd say.
Is that for real? Are you?
It's true. It's like you do it.
So you're not just fucking with me, like.
You do it when you're 25.
Like, I'm so gullible.
If you do it when you're 25 and you haven't done it at all that day, you could do it before dying. But after 45, that's suicide right there.
But then what's with all these fucking old people at the old folks communities just like tearing it up?
Must have taken Viagra, Cialis, or something. Then.
David Carradine, R.I.P.
Yeah,
he was the Kill Bill.
Yeah.
He was Bill.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's full circle.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh my god.
But yeah.
Morgan, are you like silently judging me about the leg thing?
I'm trying to think. Do you know how old Michael Hutchins was when he did that and killed himself?
No, I don't.
Another thing I don't want to Google, because I already Googled toolbox murders and.
That was such a shame because I like In Excess.
Oh, never tear us apart. Such a good song. Here's the dumpster fire coming out right now.
It is on my current playlist, actually.
You like In Excess too, yeah.
Right. It's on my playlist.
All right, Ariel.
Okay. I'm here. I'm good. No worries, guys. Everything's kosher. Everything's kosher. So, suspect pleads not guilty in First Hill axe murder of homeless camper. All right. The 25-year-old First Hill resident charged in the killing of a homeless man outside Seattle's town hall has pleaded not guilty. Liam Krieger is charged with first-degree murder. King County prosecutors say Krieger killed 52-year-old Daravuth Van with an axe as he camped near the First Hill event venue last month. CHS reported here on Krieger's arrest after 2 murders and an assault that left a man in critical condition in Cal Anderson in area attacks that targeted homeless victims sleeping outside in February. Krieger is charged in one of the deadly attacks. Police have not announced any arrests in the other investigations. The charging documents for the First Hill murder don't link the cases, but Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz has said Krieger was arrested as detectives were on the lookout for a suspect possibly preying on people unhoused when they spotted a man carrying an axe and lost track of him near Freeway Park. The axe was traced to a nearby Lowe's home improvement store where SPD gathered images of the purchaser. A Department of Corrections officer was able to identify the suspect as Krieger, and police and SWAT moved in to arrest him near his 10th Avenue residence. Prosecutors say the First Hill case also has video evidence clearly linking Krieger to the slaying. Krieger's path through the justice system could involve questions of his mental health. Prosecutors say Krieger was previously arrested in 2018 for a violent burglary and stabbing in North Bend that placed him in a treatment program under supervision of the King County Mental Health Court. Krieger failed to attend a scheduled review hearing in late 2019, but managed to steer clear of the law until his arrest this winter. Mental health competency procedures can take years to play out in the court system. In 2009, CHS reported on the long process that led to restored competency and a guilty plea in the 2007 murder of Capitol Hill resident Shannon Harps. Krieger remains held on $5 million bail at the King County Jail, where he has been held since his March 3rd arrest.
Wow.
Well, if you're walking out of a hardware store with an axe, I'm not going to assume that maybe you're capable of murdering people. But if you're walking the streets, wandering the streets with an axe, I think that's where you should get concerned. I'm wondering.
Well, the fact that nobody stopped him, you can't walk around with just a fucking axe.
No.
You can't walk around with a sword. Like, what the fuck is...
This makes me think of Kai, the axe-wielding hitchhiker, right? That went viral. Like, the guy who...
Oh,
like,
yes. Okay.
He was in the truck hit the woman, and he claimed he'd been in the truck with the guy hit the woman, and he was like, he's a racist piece of shit, and he was all this, and this guy, like, got out and started accosting the woman that he'd hit with his truck, and Kai comes along with a fucking hatchet, and was like, and I was like, smash, 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 right? It went viral. Well, this guy was like praised as a hero. They wanted to make a reality TV show out of this guy. Ultimately, they ended up making a documentary about this guy because not even a year later, he ended up in the Northeast of the United States having fucking horribly murdered a man who had taken him in for the evening and had even like bought him a train ticket to where he wanted to go. He like, oh my God, like it was horrible, like just horrible. And you look at it and go, let's think back. Why was this hitchhiker carrying a hatchet?
Yeah, really. Well, a hatchet, you could use a hatchet in self-defense, I think, probably.
Of course.
You bag, but yeah.
But he was Johnny on the spot for that guy that he claimed was racist and claimed hit this woman. And all of a sudden, this guy's fucking dead because he took a hatchet to him. Like,
some people
we only have one person's story here.
Some people go to extremes to establish that they don't suck dick, I guess.
I suppose.
I'm just kidding.
True. You're probably not wrong, though. Like, Joke
Well,
maybe,
like,
but
the
you know,
gas
that's
grabs
like,
her
that'd
ass.
be like him with the hatchet midair, self-defense, like, as he's swinging down, just,
yes.
like, you
Well,
saying it, you know, is
and
gonna change
his
anything.
defense in this elderly man that he murdered, like, murdered the fuck out of this guy. It was horrible. His defense was, well, he tried to come on to me.
Oh, really? So that was a factor in it. Because that's the thing with these on the highways, gas, grass, or ass, no one rides for free. There's a lot
Yep.
of truck stop prostitutes, and
Right.
so yeah,
Right.
a lot of these drivers expect sexual favors in exchange
Sure.
for rides, and
Sure. And I mean, it's entirely possible that he has a history of sexual abuse perpetrated against him. I mean, there were things that he talked about his upbringing that people who knew him as a child were like, this didn't happen. This
well
is not real. But that doesn't mean necessarily we don't
that's
always see what's behind closed doors.
that's what inspired those Snowtown murders in Australia.
Yep.
This guy
Right.
was sexually abused as a child and began to, like, I suspect anybody who so much as interacted with a child of being a pedophile and just started killing,
Right.
random almost.
Right.
So yeah, it just goes to
I
show
mean,
that it affects people.
it's very, what's his name? Robert Maudsley, right? In England, right? He was, I mean, like, confirmed, excuse me, sexually assaulted as a child, repeatedly, like molested as a child. And he grew up, and when he found out people had pedophilic tendencies, he murdered them. So basically, the only people who were unsafe around Robert Maudsley were people who were abusing children, and so it was a very difficult, like, he was a serial killer, I mean, it was horrible, the things that he did, but like, it's difficult. I think this is another one of those gray areas where you just look at it and you go, right, but it wasn't old, like, little old grannies, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about people who were perpetrating real harm on children. Like, it's a Dexter situation, is it not?
Like that vigilante justice, kind of.
For sure, for sure. Is it right? No, of course not. But is it as wrong as other wrongs? That's
Right.
the gray area.
Where is it on the scale?
Yeah, because it is. We are on a string, right? A tightrope between Buddha and Bundy, all of us. So
Especially when it comes
does
to
it
this
fall?
show.
For sure, for sure.
What are you implying, Morgan?
So I'm just saying in terms of, like, eye for an eye justice. That's
Yeah.
it can be hard to. Is murder? You can't equate murder with child molestation. They're not in the same league. But people feel so strongly about child molestation that many of them feel like you should get the chair for molesting a child. So.
But that's I mean, that's an argument. We don't have to get fully into it tonight, of course, but like, there is an argument to be made that there are some things worse than death. And
Yeah.
when you traumatize somebody so deeply, I mean, Pete Sutcliffe, right? The Yorkshire Ripper, all of his survivors, not one of them, not a few of them, all of his survivors have said, I wish I'd died that night.
Yeah, sometimes the victims will say, "I died inside when that happened."
Yeah.
Their childhood self died, and they lost all the innocence and for the rest of their life.
There's a woman who she was a victim of Pete Sutcliffe. She survived. Okay, so she's a survivor. The police suspected that possibly her son or her husband had been her assailant. She doubted so much because she was so fucking terrified that her marriage fell apart. Her children are now estranged from her. She lives in a flat in England. She won't walk down the sidewalk when she leaves her apartment. It is noon, midday, and she will walk down the middle of the street with cars on either side of her because she's so terrified of anything coming together. She has 4 different security systems in her apartment, and she lives with cats, and she is miserable because she's so fucking terrified of something happening to her. That to me, that's worse than death. That's worse than death.
Yeah.
Not that I would hope for death for that woman. I hope for healing for her. But
Right.
my God, like,
Well,
I cannot imagine
That's not a life.
that trauma. No,
Well,
it's not.
in a sense, that's kind of like being in prison, you know, like a
Yes.
psychological prison. Yeah.
Absolutely, you know. So, you know, I truly believe, and I mean, my own father, like, he died in 2021. He fell off of 25-foot scaffolding onto his head on ceramic tile, and he was put into a medically induced coma for 12 days. And people were like, your dad's a fighter, he's gonna pull through. And I was like, do you even understand what you're saying right now? Because my dad, the things that my dad loved more than anything else in the world, he'd never be able to do again. None of them. He was an artist. He was an artist for a living. He'd never pick up a paintbrush again. He couldn't even talk. He couldn't recognize people that he loved. He couldn't recognize his favorite music that they played for him. Like, this is worse than death. Why? Why would you want him to pull through?
Or like, you know, what's the point of being like 115 years old? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Kind of life do you have at 103, 105? You know?
Yes. You're absolutely right.
Life isn't always the ideal, best case scenario.
No, it's not. And I mean, and that was a big thing I had to advocate for. And I was like, look, I'm not just a huge proponent of death, guys. Like, I know I deal with true crime, and I fucking love skeletons and skulls. Like, I truly, I think they're beautiful, actually. But like, yeah, okay, so I'm a spooky bitch, but like, I wasn't looking to lose my dad. Like, I was very close with my dad. My dad was fucking badass. Like, but him not being able to do any of the things that he loved ever, being trapped inside his brain and unable to communicate with people, like, I was like, why would you want him to pull through? Like, he'd be sitting in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, being taken care of 24 hours a day by some type of nursing assistant. Like, I don't, what kind of joy or relief do you think that brings me? None.
Right.
No. Let him die with dignity. Let him go out the way that he would want to in that situation. Like, you know. So anyway, I'm sorry, not to turn this into a whole
but
thing.
Also,
I'm sorry, guys.
It's kind of like how the death penalty is not really a punishment, in my opinion, because being in prison for like 50 years, that's much worse than dying.
Thank you. Yes.
Being surrounded by all those people and all the dangers of being in prison, and how you can't live a fulfilling life in there, really.
No.
That's much worse. That's what it's like. We're talking about the OJ case, how Ron Goldman's family, what they wanted more than the monetary settlement was just to put OJ behind bars, because they had been suffering. He hadn't been suffering. So that's what the victims and their families really want.
Oh, agreed, 100%. And I mean, I try to really drive that home with my own listeners when I can. I'm not a death penalty advocate. I'm from fucking Texas. We're number one, baby, for putting people to death. Like, it's the most active death penalty state.
But you're doing it on paper, yeah.
But the fact is that when people are put on death row, they're basically getting life in prison. They just get compulsory appeals that we have to fucking pay for as taxpayers. There's a moratorium on the death penalty. Like, there is a moratorium on executions in most states at this point in time. They don't kill people who go on death row. So all you're doing is saying, yeah, you get 3 hots in a cot, and we're going to pay to have you take this to tie up the courts indefinitely.
There was one time when the death penalty truly was a punishment. I don't remember his name, but there was this boy. This is very early 20th century. He was like a child. He was like 12 years old or something, this black boy. And he might even have been innocent of the crime. But they took
pictures of him being strapped to the electric chair.
Coming down his eyes. He was terrified. He was crying. It's terrible to look at.
God, that's fucking terrible. That is terrible. You know, I mean, Unfortunately, though, people think, well, the death penalty, that's going to be a deterrent. Well, it's not, because when people are in the, I'm sorry, heat of passion, right? Crimes of passion, which is most crimes, they're spur of the moment things. They're not people plotting, right?
Right.
They're
Or
people
if
who
you're
lose their
backed in a
shit.
corner and you have
Yeah,
nothing to
no.
lose.
No, you just fucking do. I mean, like, look at Betty Broderick's first husband that she shot dead and then got off for self-defense. Shot him in the back with a shotgun.
Oh,
Yeah. No.
He
Oh, the
got
firing
pissed. He
squad.
was gonna leave her. He started leaving. She grabbed a shotgun and shot him dead in the back. Like, was she planning to do that? No, probably not. But like,
She
it's
still
fucking
did it.
murder. It's murder. She just, like,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of thing. She wasn't thinking about the penalties. She just wanted him dead in that moment. Maybe only in that moment. You know what I mean? But that's how most crime plays out. So, I mean, the punishments are not deterrents for the crimes, unfortunately. But if you're facing life in prison versus the death penalty, yeah, I mean, you're going to have a lot more time to sit there and think about what the fuck you did.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
On that note of thinking about things we've done, I think I'll conclude for this week. Well, so with Michelle Gower and Ariel Cooksey and myself, Morgan Rector, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good week.
Thank you.